So, hello, my name is Alexander Ermenkov, and we are starting today's webinar, How to Ruin the Construct of Reality. Thank you for all that are participating in the moment live. I'm just going to share my screen so that we can move forward directly with the meeting. So I hope you see now my screen. Do you see my screen and do you hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you. So today's webinar is about how to rule in the construct in reality. And we are also live in Facebook. So let me just double check again. Yes, we are live on Facebook. So in this webinar, I'm doing these webinars every month on a different topics. And today's topics is how to rule in the construct of reality. And so we just start immediately. My name is Alexander Ermenkov. I'm a ruling reality coach. This is something that I constructed because I'm very passionate about how actually everything works in reality. And today I'm willing to explore much further and much deeper about the construct of reality. And of course, if any one of you have questions while we're here participating, you can also ask me or in the chat or directly, because there are not a lot of people now in the moment. So the important thing about reality and I have constructed this webinar to be for and what type of people are going to like this type of webinars, it is about those that are waiting usually, but actually can change themselves into starting of generating reality, about those that are feeling that they're affected by reality to actually understand and to start influencing the reality. For those of us that are just changing themselves and don't really understand why they're going through such processes, to actually realize how actually we can start ruling our realities. So basically, this is my logo that I created about everything that I'm doing, like a ruling reality coach. And the idea here is that we, the human beings, are rulers, and we are 100% connected with the above as well as with the below. There is part of us that is inside of us, which I call the limitless part of us, the inside of our beings. And then through our experience with the five senses, we are constantly experiencing everything around us, which is actually limitation. So we are limitless inside, but also we are limited around while experiencing everything with our five senses. But long term, we are going to understand, all of us, that this is made for a reason. So basically, there are very interesting thing that we need to understand about the construct of reality. The first thing, maybe all of us can agree that actually the construct is complex, fractal, and multi-layered. That's why when we, the human beings, are trying to understand reality, we always try to simplify it. And it looks like it's very simple, but actually we need also to understand that it is very complex. A lot of hundreds and thousands of things are happening simultaneously. Also, there are layers over layers over layers that are happening in the same time in reality. Also, the other very big topic, which I like a lot to explore, is the difference between the construct, what we are going to speak about today, the context. A lot of people are speaking about the mindset and the perception, how we, the human beings, are actually perceiving reality, but also the content. The content is the most familiar part of us because we know a lot about the things, we explore the things, we like to enjoy the things, we like to experience the things. This is part of the content. Then with the context and the perception, we are actually understanding more deeply about the meaning of the content, and actually the construct is everything that holds our experience. And today's webinar is about the construct. Also, the construct is simultaneously individualized, also universal, interdimensional, and it is all of these things simultaneously. So the construct is experienced by us in a holographic reality. This is very interesting because we think that what we perceive with our five senses, it is everything that is out there, but of course, deep inside of us, we know that there is something more. So basically, how I have dissected reality in 4 quadrants, which long-term can explain everything that is happening in reality. The first quadrant, and the quadrants are dissected by internal quadrants and external quadrants. The internal quadrants of reality are first the internal individual. This is this part of us, which is inside of us, the invisible part, inside of our thinking, feeling processes, the way we are in the state inside of us. Then there is also one part that is called internal collective, how we, the human beings, can understand each other. It doesn't matter whatever part of the world we are, even in different centuries, we can still understand each other because there are a lot of basic understanding that we have gathered through communication, through knowledge that is gathered in this so-called internal collective experience. This is part, of course, long-term from one theory called integral theory. And also the external part of our experience and of our reality is also divided in 2 parts. The first part of the external reality is the individual external, and basically this is where our bodies, you're going to understand it now, and the external collective, everything that we have done as human beings in this external reality. And so in the individual internal, there is everything that is unseen, but we know that it is out there. There is our awareness, our perception, our consciousness, our subconsciousness, all our dreams, visualization, memories of experience, pattern recognition, predictability, projections, intent, attention, focus, identity, desire, passion, urges, will. All of this is part of our internal individual. Then in the external individual is actually all that we describe as our body. Through the body, we feel the energy vibrations, all the feelings, all the rhetorics, all our behaviors are able to express only through our bodies. Through our bodies, we can go into the relationships, all the health and vitality, all the energies we are experiencing them through the body, the state of our being, our alignment, coherence, all these beautiful feelings, our authenticities, attitudes, a lot of things are experienced through the individual external, our body. Of course, it is individual because every body is a little bit different. There is a lot of things involved in each of our bodies that happens to describe our uniqueness. Then in the collective internal is everything that we as human beings have collected during the centuries. Here are our religions, beliefs, worldviews, science, laws, order, value, culture, language, knowledge, concept, and theories. And we can think that there are so many, so different, but actually from the perspective of how much humanity has lived, there are actually not so much and so many beliefs and worldviews that we have collected regarding how and what is the construct of reality. And the external collective is actually where is our generational wealth, money, asset. This is what we call also the civilization, industrialization, technology, but also the nature, the universe, the cosmos, everything that we can perceive with our eyes. So basically it is what the nature has done for us, what is the visible part of the universe, and what is the creation of all the human beings during the centuries. So when we look into the reality, we need always to look in these 4 quadrants in order to better understand and to know that reality is not only one part of us, there are at least 4 things minimum happening simultaneously. Then in the reality that we are experiencing constantly, we are experiencing some conflicts also, and it is also made for a purpose. Long term, I have realized that it is part of the validation process, how we, the human beings, are understanding more of the reality by excluding a lot of things long term, while we are exploring more and more how to go deep into understanding. So we know that we have left and right hemisphere of the brain, where this is how we are created. And then even in our internal world, based on our external individual bodies, how we are created, because then the left hemisphere is more focused on the content, the right on the constant, the left hemisphere more on the details, and the right more of the totality of everything and the generality of things. The left is focused on the impact, while the right more on the bigger purpose and meanings. And all the time there is validation processes between the 2 of them. While the left is more strongly working with the logic, the right is strongly working with the intuition and is leading us to what is beyond things. So in the body, external, individual, there are still conflicts going on between the body automations and the behaviors, and how we actually are able to rule the body. Here are the body limitations that we're experiencing through our daily reality versus the inner part of us that feels this limitlessness as a being. Also, we have the body health and vitality, which is the individual body experience, but also we have the universe energy and flows that are constantly working and affecting this body. Then we have all the body wants and wasts versus our body as a vehicle and reality that needs also to do specific purposes in our reality. So basically, we have these 2 paradoxes between the embodiment of everything in reality, because we are perceiving reality and we want everything to go through our body, through our feelings, through our experience, and to embody everything, versus the way how we are created in the inside of us, and this transcendence type of tendencies where we would like to be detached from the limitation of the body. So in the collective internal, there are still more conflicts between the subjective and objective truth, between the common good in the individual authenticity, between the value benefiting cause versus benefiting values for me, shadow suppression versus unique expression, and so on. So we actually see here where is the big fight between also our ego and what is the collective benefit for all of us that are here experiencing this reality. So in the collective external, we have the civilization versus nature, the human impact that we are creating with our experience versus what is natural. We have also the universal laws versus the human exploitation. Also, another big part in the external collective is the tendency of beings being under order versus the desire of the beings to go through the way they think and decide. Also here we have the big conflict between the creator and creation that is also part of this experience in the reality that we are experiencing. So what is happening actually in our mind, because inside and through our mind we are experiencing reality, and the important thing is long-term on a daily basis to understand what do we see. and to understand that our construct is of a border zone beings. There are other conscious beings in the construct beyond the humans, and there are universal order of things, and we need to know which is our part. And when we are seeing and perceiving with the five senses, we need to know long-term to understand everything that is beyond things also. So if reality has a language, what are the important things that we need to notice during our reality experiences? The first thing is, what is reality? It is very important because reality is, of course, not our dreams, not what we only perceive and think in our inner world and the quadrant number one of reality, but actually it is the state of things as they actually exist, as opposed to an idealistic or notional idea of them. Each of us, we are 8 billions in the moment and more here on the planet, and we can have different perceptions about the reality, but the long-term tendency that we need to follow is to understand the things as they actually exist. So important thing is when we are trying to understand reality and how it communicates with us, to understand language, which is a coding part, and we need to understand that behind each coding in this transmission, there is the visualization of things, and to see the holographic layers of language and decoding. And what we are perceiving beyond the five senses is actually the processes. The processes are all the relationships between the things, and what we see beyond the things are the processes of forces that are constantly going into balance. In the past, we were labeling a lot of these processes as different gods, but actually through the going into the deepness of the reality, we understand and start spotting and perceiving these processes and also all the flows of this interconnectedness in the reality. What we are to do with reality? Since all the moving parts are constantly in process and constantly in progress, the only thing we as human beings can do is just to be present, just to know what is our positioning as an alignment with all as it is, to observe the processes. And our long-term part is to subdue, to understand these processes, and to learn how to have dominion on the effects by generating through ourselves the effects that long-term are enriching and beneficial for all. So how we are actually aligned with reality? We need, first of all, to go to a positioning that actually everything is perfectly aligned, and we need to accept it, that whatever we experience with the five senses, it is there to be for us, and we need to be aligned and to accept it. So the first part is to accept what we generate, who we are expressing is what our reality is. It is the opposite of resistance, where we are ignoring the feedback of what we are receiving daily. And if we go into complaint and blame long-term, we are disconnecting from the alignment. The other two processes that are happening, which are disconnecting us and which are disbalancing us, is or we are influencing reality or we are trying to bend it. We forced and try to have things in reality, different experiences in reality, without being who we need to be at this specific moment. And the other more positive objective is actually from the position we are to start influencing reality by change and trust and then our reality change and experience is going to follow. So in order to rule as human beings in the construct of reality, we need to know what is the meaning of alignment of heart, mind, guts, and care. So first we need to learn the positioning of alignment. Then we need to learn that when we want something to be influenced, it is created by the disbalance of the intent. Thirdly, we need to forward see and to go into backward doingness, not to start doing things in order long-term to go to a specific effects, but first to see further down the road what are the results that we would like long-term to be reviewed in the reality, where a lot of processes are going simultaneously, and to go from these backward doingness processes and long-term to learn to trust all the processes that exist already there for us in reality. So if all this is working simultaneously and we are living in 100% in this interconnected reality, how are we actually experiencing this rulership in our reality? So we are long-term in interconnected reality and wholeness. So the two definitions and the two separations is actually, are we separated? And the other possibility is to be in wholeness. So if there is a beginning of the experience, it is not possible without the separateness, but actually the final destination for all the experience of all the beings throughout reality is everything in reality to go back into wholeness. I'm using this word, but not oneness, because there is a very big difference between both. So since we are born, little by little, we start to experience our ego, and our ego is the king of the separateness, but long-term, the direction of our experience is the wholeness, and the wholeness is the king of interconnectedness. Once we understand that we cannot make long-term experience without understanding how we can be aligned with all the processes and everything that is out there, we cannot let go of the ego of separateness and start to allow ourselves to experience more and more of the wholeness. So one of the options is to rule alone, separate, and to be out of order and alignment. And the other option in the wholeness is we to go into 100% interconnectedness through the positioning of border zone creatures that are ruling our reality in this wholeness process. So long-term, we can experience wholeness only if we dare to embrace all that is out there as it is without trying to change it. So the two tendencies that are out there is separate, individualized consciousness, and the other tendency that we can move forward to is to embrace all in wholeness. So can we say that one of them is good or the other one is bad? Actually, we need the individualized consciousness in order to gather awareness, to gather experiences, but long-term, we need to know where is our destinations going to and towards, and as more as we are allowing ourselves to embrace wholeness and to go toward this direction where we are realizing that to be beneficial for others and to be beneficial for the all and to be servants of the all and of the wholeness is the long-term game. So the three fundamentals of reality we are to master is first the content, things as they really are. We need to constantly observe them, to notice them, to have our feedback. The second thing is the context, to be able to extract the meaning and the purpose behind all the content that we are experiencing in our daily reality, but also long-term to understand the power of the construct, how everything is going towards, and long-term it is in wholeness. So now a small question for you that are participating in the live or in Facebook or are going to watch it later. What is the purpose of life according to you? So these are my findings, how I find the purpose of life. More of us are thinking that the idea of life is just to experience it and long-term to gather awareness, also to consciously impact reality and leave our mark, our legacy. Also, for me, it is very important to express the wholeness of interconnected reality. So long-term, when we are passing by through this reality, when we are experiencing, when we are interconnecting, we need to do such an impact that actually we are bringing everything around us into more wholeness and more interconnectedness. So the goal for me for this webinar is for all of us to understand that ultimately, if we position ourselves as limitless beings that are, of course, experiencing daily the limitations of reality, is one thing, but also if we learn to express what we want by mastering the reality, this is existential for us to interact efficiently and create lasting impacts while living more bonded and interconnected space. So if we can long-term go into this direction, then the goal of this webinar is actually achieved. So there are three things that we can actually extract out of this webinar. And the first thing is we need to learn that instead of going into individualization, into separateness, we need to learn how to stop disconnecting, how to long-term generate for us things that are creating wholeness, and to trust the process that wholeness is the end game. So about this connection, once we understand that this connection takes energy in order to be sustained, that wholeness is easy when we embrace all as it is, when we understand that to be separated in a connected and in aligned universe is so difficult, it is not so easy to give up. So it's actually much more easy to give up these disconnection processes that we usually are going to by our survival mechanisms. So how we actually generate wholeness? What is our active part? First, we are accepting all as it is. We are aligning ourselves, and through this, we are revealing the connection, and then we are creating space for all instead of more individualization. This is part of the paradox where actually as more we are going forward toward wholeness, more and more space we are going to allow for all people around us, for all beings around us to be able to express into our presence. So the third obvious is trust the process, that wholeness is the end game towards we are long-term going. Nothing will disappear, but all will be long-term absorbed into the wholeness. Separateness is to embrace wholeness long-term. This is the long-term gain, and wholeness will make the final order to appear. Everything is moving towards this final destination. Wholeness is making all to be in its full potential long-term. So these are the three obvious things that if we as human beings are able long-term to move forward, this is going to be really positioning us based on how the construct is going forward as rulers in our reality. So there is always a new way that is possible, that reality is subject to influence. This is what we are going to understand, that actually reality is possible to be understood, to be deconstructed, to be realized from a human being, because we are created to live in this reality. We can learn how to interact in all the limitations of this reality, how to actually make this reality shifts by this balancing, but in much more mature way, where we are actually long-term creating wholeness and connectedness. And of course, we are going to learn long-term, when we understand reality, how to measure the influences upon the reality. If somebody is thinking that mastering reality is existential and awesome, you can put it in the chat. For me, it is a big passion. So for me, this is very important. That's why I have created a specific program called Ruling Reality Basic Program, where I'm explaining all of the things that are important for reality. And what usually people get when they go with me through this program are the 4 things. They understand real life experiences, how to actually influence reality. They are much more daring to start interacting with all the limitations that we are experiencing and making reality shifts and real measurement of our long-term influence upon reality. So I have created more than 28 videos. I'm interacting with Zoom calls. I'm having sharing calls with the people that I'm working with. And also I'm encouraging them long-term to work with this ruling reality tracker, which is helping us to understand daily what is happening in our realities. So we are going within 30 days to learn the processes which are much more important than the effects. Learn that how everything is happening is not our primary business, but actually to learn to rule our own reality by positioning ourselves is the most important part. So I'm the client that usually am constantly experiencing my program, and that's why I'm the first client. I have some validation of my program by Kate McNally, who I'm speaking about.
Yeah. So does that make sense?
The program.
Now it just sits there on the table. The fact that life has systems and patterns, but I can't do anything with that information. Like, okay, I wake up in the morning, and then you spend a lot of time in those transitional elements. So I actually made a model of myself, but it's downstairs, because you spend it like there's this pre-awakening stage when you're still asleep, that your body's kind of doing this transition. There's this kind of just at you're awake, your eyes are open, but your brain isn't awake yet. And then there's the fully awake stage. I think that's like day 2. But then again, well, what do I do with that information? I'm kind of lost. So anyway, that's just kind of my initial thoughts.
Yes. So you'll see after week 2 that I started to develop slides for all the information. So it is going to become a little bit better. And I'm trying, because it's a lot of concepts, and I'm trying now to make them more visualized and to go more into the bits of the information. But basically, the idea here is that all of us know that there are a lot of people that are using the mornings to make morning routines, meditations, or whatever they are trying to do. Some people are doing in the evening affirmations or doing some things, conditioning their minds during the evenings. And here in my program, the important thing is why we people are doing the things we are doing, and why the construct of reality is done in such a way that actually we are thinking, what shall we do with this information? The problem with reality is that we don't need to do anything. We just need to accept what it is and just to align to what already exists. For example, if there are cycles There is a lot of information you can go into and research. Let's say the moon cycles, the star cycles, why some people are trying to align themselves with all these different energies and so on and so on. And then why we have this cycle of day and night. It is so boring, it's so obvious, but it repeats more than 33,000 times in our life. So you see some part of how I'm doing the program. And the beautiful thing about actually when we start understanding reality, how the construct is working, that we, the human beings, don't actually need don't need to follow specific prescriptions or recipes about how to be successful and so on, and to push forward. But actually, once we learn how the construct is working, things are becoming much more easy for us. So this program is created for those who want to experience the impossible, those who want to actually understand how reality shifts are working, and those of us that are actually really willing to start interacting with reality. And of course, this is a very deep knowledge. It needs a lot of experience, and that's why I'm always there. I'm into this for more than 2-3 years now. It helps me a lot in all the 4 quadrants of my reality. I'm constantly working with this knowledge. I'm deepening it for myself. And this is part of the experience. And I have included this in these conversations that I'm doing with the Q&A calls. And actually, if all this is possible, that I'm expressing for us, the human beings, I think that it is worth it, but you can also think if this is something that is worth it for you. So this program is usually costing $1,000 that I have created, this 1-month program where you have also 6 calls with me. And we are really deep diving into how reality works, and we are positioning everyone that is participating into this program into really understanding his own reality. And then I'm giving also a $1,000 voucher for a 6-month program that long-term, if a person is willing to go forward with, he can still continue developing himself. Also, there will be additional one-to-one calls with me. And in addition, in this $1,000, it's not only the $1,000 voucher, but I have created one more program, which is only about the quadrant 4 of reality, how actually wealth and abundance and real generational wealth is created, solid money, solid assets. And I'm doing it because I have created for myself these balances of my own reality, and I'm also impacting very strongly my quadrant 4 of reality, and I'm willing to share also this program with the people that are willing to attend. So in this program, we have, again, all these shifts that are going to happen in the quadrant number 4. Again, we have the videos. And the specifics here is you see how much information I have put regarding all these things, the source of excess, the ultimate strategic position is the value of who we are, the 2 invisible assets, the interconnection of wealth, the wealth flows, money is the limitator indicator, and additional information about stewardship, wealth enjoyment and consumption, wealth abundance. Actually, this is what I have realized for myself, that when people are long-term understanding the power of excess, actually we become more and more selfless beings, because anyhow, what we can create, which is above what we consume, once we understand how reality works, actually we become much more selfless beings and start helping everything around us. Then we understand all the processes that are creating the abundance, the fundamentals of multiplication, the hyper ability of us as human beings to be in collaboration, the common and the greater good, nature and society balance, the fruitfulness, the process of growth, transmutation of material into non-material assets, and vice versa. And we are going into these 4 weeks in deep dive only in the quadrant 4 of reality, where is actually our external expression we the human beings are doing long term. And I'm really amazed how big impact this part is actually doing upon the reality. So this is part of this program, and there are a lot of benefits that actually I'm 100% sure that they can be reviewed for all of us. And long term, the beautiful thing is that we will stop chasing money, but we will understand the processes, how they're working, and then money or the direct object will be byproduct of everything that we are long-term producing. So in this way, somebody who is joining my program, actually it is 100% free because of the voucher that they are going to receive long-term for a 6-month transformational program, where it is continuing with a lot of practice into understanding how reality is to be ruled. So you can long-term scan and have the payments directly through my webpage, alexanderremenkov.com. Also, you can book a call with me on Calendly. But the interesting thing about all this project, I'm going to stop sharing, is that actually, yeah, I think I stopped sharing, is what I really like about deep diving into reality, because I see so many people just going on the surface and never willing to go deep dive in everything that is happening. So I'm finished and we can speak more freely now. If you have questions, I know these topics are very deep and I'm discovering everything myself. I'm listening a lot, but everything I'm doing is from the perspective of how can we actually rule our reality. So if some of you wants to jump in and to ask questions or give his viewpoint, and of course, I will be very interested if you actually like this topic, or it is a topic that you actually ignore, it is still okay for me. If you can unmute yourself or ask something.
I thought it was very interesting, and I was wanting to know, because I work with Pamela there. We wanted to know how this could help our mindset when growing, business, talking to prospects and things like that. Do you think there would be a good way to control, like positive mindset for prospecting, or do you think, I don't know if the two kind of work together, but that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, James. Hi, Alexander. Nice to meet you. Sorry, I joined a little late. I got involved with another call here and I just got off. So yeah, nice to see you, James.
Yeah, I mean, it will be recorded anyhow, so I'll send you also the recording.
Thank you.
But for sure, I have a pharmaceutical company in Bulgaria with 30 people. And I really am implementing a lot of these ruling reality principles directly into my company. And I see a lot of success that is happening there. For example, the first thing I was very interested about, I said, okay, how am I actually able to implement this knowledge into normal day life? So I decided, okay, instead of just being somebody that is striving to succeed and to create success for myself, I decided to surround with successful people and started to educate everyone of my company and put the intent that I want all the people in the company to be successful as they are, who they are. And I gathered all the company. I said, okay, we have tried to have goals for years that are achievable. Let's start with something that we 100%, all of us know that it is not achievable. We cannot achieve it for this year. And I want we to put goals that we 100% know that we cannot achieve, but to start just moving forward and to try to see what is going to happen. So we started 2020 in the end, maybe, with this project. So we were selling, let's say, something like 20,000 packs then per month from pharmaceutical products. And actually, we set a goal 3 times in 1 year to be able to grow the company. The first year we achieved something like 30 or 40%, but constantly we started to implement a lot of additional processes. Okay, we want to create something that is impossible. What additionally we need to move as moving parts and so on and so on. So we created, because in reality it's very important. I realized it, for me it was a very strong comprehension that actually all the people that work for me, their experiences during the day, during the working day, are actually part of the assets of the company. So what I realized is that actually I asked all of them in weekly Zoom calls to start explaining what are their achievements, what are their challenges, and so on, in order to start extracting what is happening in each person's reality. And little by little, we start gathering this momentum. We started putting processes. So almost every month, we are measuring what has happened. We continue influencing, we continue following all the processes, but every person, every week, have a conversation about what has happened during all his week, really talking about what he's experienced, what is doing good, what is not doing good, and so on and so on. And long term, we came to the conclusion that actually each of these persons is able to achieve good results. I mean, not pressuring them. I mean, we're working a lot with this, the gap and the game principle, but now more and more we're creating such a processes that actually each of them are now feeling comfortable that they're producing monthly some beautiful results, and the company is seeing them, spotting them, and appreciating them. So
So
we're,
you have tangible results.
yeah, the problem
Very
is that this, for first time I realized how this culture, how all these invisible assets actually are creating the long-term visible effects for the company. So the same way as the mind is working on the individual level, so it is possible to implement it long-term into our own structures. And yeah, I think it works beautifully for
Very nice, very nice.
I'm of course testing it with my own company, but
Yeah.
I see that it is working.
You know what attracted me when James told me about this and showed me the LinkedIn ad, you know, and the invitation, was removing blocks, I guess, mental blocks or emotional blocks. So I don't know if you covered that during this whole session. You probably did. But can you give me an example of what you do to help remove mental or emotional blocks that people may be carrying that stop them from doing what they need to do? Because that seems to be a trend out there, that like people are tapping into that. People have blocks that just stop them from reaching their goals and reaching, you know, their dreams in life.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. For me, basically, there are a lot of things that are happening in the mindset. There are so many coaches that are speaking about this. But for me, I have created these strong fundamentals. Once we realize that all the human beings are limitless inside of them, but we are just experiencing these limitations daily, then how we are removing the blocks? First, when we realize who we are as a position, then little by little, once we understand that there is a uniqueness in each of our people. For example, when I look in the people that we are hiring, let's say we have in the moment 30 people, long term I have put a strategy for 80 people in the next 2-3 years. But the important thing is that we as company are trying to create such a structure that each of them to be able to express this uniqueness in order the company to benefit as a whole. So in this way, you are not constantly pushing these limiting beliefs and saying, okay, now see, this is limiting belief, you need to take it away. But once we create this culture and atmosphere, because anyhow, I mean, once we level that all beings, you just imagine in the moment I have 30 limitless beings that are working in a company, how it's possible we not to achieve results.
That's right. Very nice. Let me ask you, where are you? Are you in the United States, Alexander?
No, I'm in Bulgaria, Europe.
Bulgaria.
Also in Greece, I'm working. I've been in some mentoring and coaching. And also I'm exploring a lot this because I was a little bit mad and frustrated from the personal development industry because it's speaking so much on the surface and nobody wants to deep dive how to
Yes.
actually make the things really work. And
Yeah, that's
it's not so hard, but it's really, you need to go from the deep forward.
right, right, right. This reminds me of a book that I read called, you may want to check it out. It's called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. It's just a small, short little paperback read, but it's so good because I think it'll take off from where you're coming from, dealing with the internal things, right? The things, the blocks. And then you have to turn that into self-talk because your brain will believe whatever you tell it. So if you're saying, oh, I'm not going to be successful in this, I'm not going to do a good job, you're not going to do a good job. You're absolutely right. So whatever you tell yourself is what's going to be, so your brain will do exactly what you tell it. But yeah, so I think those would go hand in hand, but so you have a program that you're offering to people globally, right?
Yes, of course.
And I think I saw the 4 stages or 4 programs or something.
Yeah, I have created it for 1 month, everyday videos, and every week interaction about each of the steps.
Okay.
In the moment, this program, which is called Ruling Reality Basics, it's for individual to understand reality. Long term, I'm very passionate about creating something about the cultural and the corporate structure. And because for all of us, all these things were like, this is just wordings and so on and so on. I never realized that actually companies also, this internal invisible part is so important for the performance of the company.
Really
And
is.
yeah, this is a very big long-term thing. I would like to invest into it in the future because you can really see the results there. And I'm now testing it a lot with my company. I'm enjoying good results. I mean, every month we have good growths and people are much more happy. Of course, some of them are leaving us because when I'm presenting them so much knowledge, one lady said, oh, now I'm 45, but I decided to follow my dreams and I want to become a doctor. What shall I
There
say?
you go. Change your whole future,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so
That's right. That means you're
everyone,
very effective because you changed her mindset.
yeah,
Paradigm, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. So can I ask you, how much is your program, Alexander?
Yeah, I have placed it for $1,000 is the program for one person.
Uh-huh.
And
Is that
I'm
one-time fee?
yes.
Okay. And it should take 1 month
Yeah,
to go through
1
the
month.
program?
Yeah.
Okay.
I tested it with 2 people from the States. Also, I had already one client from Canada. I tested it now with 2 people from the States. It's a little bit overwhelming for them. They say, well, it's not so easy every day, so much information to implement, because actually it is everything that the personal development is speaking into less than 1 month, but without everything on the surface, because otherwise you can go into a specific subject for months. But here I'm trying to go to the core, because once you understand the core, then everything else is much more easy to be moved.
Okay, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
So once you do the month, you're saying you can take off and do study something for a few months. Is that what happens after the month? You have additional courses to take?
There is then a 6 months program, which is 12 modules. Every module is only 2 weeks, so it can become, but I call this like more as a boot camp. It's
Okay,
people are long-term willing to really deep dive, because first I want them to test and to feel it for themselves, because it is a very fundamental thing. It is not a joke.
yes, that's right. I'm sorry I have to take this call, but I'm sure you had something to say. I'll be right back if you guys stay on, but if not,
Yeah,
it's nice
I
meeting you,
gotta-
and I'll talk to James about it, okay?
Yeah, I
Thank
gotta
you.
jump off too.
I'll
Yeah, see you later.
Okay, thank you, and we can contact with each other. Yeah,
See you later.
bye-bye. Okay, guys, so this is it for today. If somebody has more questions long-term, he can ask me. And there are so much applications about everything that we spoke today, and this is only the tip of the iceberg. So have a nice day and enjoy your realities. Bye-bye.